We're having to problem solve as a team. How can we make this work? We haven't got a solution, but we will get there, because these are the sort of roadblocks that we've had along the way, where you have to be nimble and you have to change, and you have to possibly renegotiate new terms, change the way that you design. Nothing is a given in our industry. We have to adapt. We used to have a spring, summer, autumn, winter season. No one does that anymore.
Hello and welcome. I'm Elizabeth Formosa, the founder of Fashion Equipped, a Melbourne-based strategic growth advisory working with clients globally. On this podcast, I sit down with fashion founders, industry leaders and innovators, all who are shaping the future of fashion. We explore what it really takes to build and scale dynamic, profitable and resilient fashion businesses in a complex and competitive landscape. We go deep into leadership and mindset, financials, brand, product, sourcing, sales and marketing strategy. And we do not skim over the commercial reality required to grow profitably and sustainably. These are honest conversations grounded in real experience from people who are building, evolving, and growing businesses every day. If you want to refine your strategy, strengthen your structure, lead your business with more clarity, and continue to grow, you're in the right place. Let's do this together. Let's take your fashion business to the next level. Welcome back to Fashion Business Mindset. My guest today is Gosia Piątek, the founder of Kowtow, a sustainable clothing brand that launched in 2006 with a mission to transform the fashion industry through transparency, ethical production, and environmental responsibility. Born in Poland, Gosia arrived in New Zealand as a child refugee after her family fled the communist regime, an experience that shaped her values around fairness, resilience and community. Despite having no formal design training, she built Kowtow on a commitment to Fairtrade organic cotton and circular design, driven by a desire to co-create clothing that could return safely to the earth without harming people or the planet. Under Gosia's leadership, the brand has pioneered plastic-free garments, supply chain accountability from seed to store, and ambitious goals such as replacing 1 million synthetic garments with sustainable alternatives, positioning Kowtow as a global leader in ethical, regenerative fashion. I had the pleasure of sitting down with Gosia this week, and the day after, I visited the Kowtow store on Gertrude Street in Fitzroy, here in Melbourne. It had been a while since I'd experienced the brand in person, and it really reinforced something important: the consistency between what Kowtow stands for and what they create. I picked up one of their best-selling pieces, this oversized boxy tee that I have on, in a beautiful sun-warmed burnt orange. So if you're watching on YouTube, you'll be able to see it. Their philosophy of wear nature, not plastic, isn't just a statement. It's something you experience the moment you put on the garments. In this conversation, we explore the vision behind Kowtow, the realities of building a truly ethical and transparent supply chain, the commercial considerations of running a values-led business, behind the scenes design methodologies, and what it takes to lead and sustain a brand over 2 decades. I was completely inspired and in awe of what Gosia and her team have achieved, and no doubt you will be too. So let's dive in. Gosia, welcome to the Fashion Business Mindset podcast.
Thank you for having me, Elizabeth. Kia ora, everyone. Good morning, good evening.
Yeah, amazing. It's good evening for me here in Melbourne. Good morning for you in London. Gosia, I'm going to ask you to wind back the clock before we dive into Kowtow as it is today. So much has happened over the last 20 years. but I'd love for you to share what life was like before starting Kowtow more than 20 years ago, and what experiences or influences in your life sparked the idea of creating your amazing clothing brand, that your initial vision was for it to come from earth and that it can safely return back to the earth, and you've achieved that. But what was it like in the early days?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question because I've got quite a unique story, I think. So when I was 5 years old, I was born in Poland, and my parents fled Poland as political asylum refugees through Italy, and we chose New Zealand. Well, New Zealand, Canada, and Australia were accepting refugees at the time, and my father chose New Zealand. So it was already, I guess, a story based around hardship, and I think some of the things that hardship teaches you, I think I talk about this a lot. I was talking about it with my bestie last night on the phone. The things that ease doesn't actually teach our children, and that friction, it's like you need to, you need to put pressure on your muscles to have great, great posture and great muscle tone for when you're set up for the future. So it's the same thing. It's that idea of tension, and I think that tension, that struggle, actually helped me set up Kowtow. I don't know if I would have done Kowtow if possibly I was born into privilege in New Zealand. I don't know. Maybe. Don't know. So I think that was really, really informative because my parents taught me very early, from a very young age, that every time you get $1, you put 20 cents away. And it started with small amounts. And to this day, 20 years on, we're self-funded. We don't have any debt, and we haven't sold any shares off the company. And we're close to 50 staff. So it's a remarkable feat. And it's the same as you and your podcast. You said you're in the 6th year, and after the first 3, you normally fail. I don't think many fashion brands get to 20 years, because it's a hard road. Yeah. So, I mean, in amongst that, I was, I grew up like, I guess, possibly an ordinary Kiwi kid. I did get to New Zealand at 7, so I've got a New Zealand accent. I think I do, I'm not sure. And
you do?
Okay, yeah. And I've lived in so many countries now. But and I left university, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I loved nature so much. My parents used to take us a lot to national parks, and we'd go walking on the weekends, probably because it's a great free activity. And and actually it's the perfect activity to connect with the world and understand its beauty and its awe and its magic. So I got really obsessed with snowboarding. And I hustled my way into every situation where I could do that. So I spent some time in North America, and I'd go back and do back-to-back seasons with down south in New Zealand. There's Queenstown, Wanaka in the area. And in the mountains, I just felt so inspired. I felt it's so awe-inspiring just being on top of those mountains with just those two colours, the blue and the white, and the silence and the pristine, just how pristine it feels when snow's just landed. It's so pure, it hasn't been polluted.
Yeah.
And going back to cities and just feel confronted as to how humans actually do things and how wrong it feels. And I think this is when Kowtow was born. I didn't study fashion, but I started asking questions around, well, why do we not know where clothing comes from? Who made it? What is the production chain? And where does it end up? And this is a basic human need. We all have this as part of food, water, shelter, and the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but yet we don't understand it. No one's delved into it. And I guess at the time I was probably this kind of radical snowboarding refugee hippie. I don't know what it was. I think being on the periphery probably helps you in entrepreneurship.
Yeah, absolutely. But why fashion, even with that motivation, that ethos, the friction that you experienced in the early days? You could have taken those values or that vision into any industry. Why specifically fashion and clothing? Knowing how hard it would be, or maybe you didn't realise perhaps how hard it would be in the early days.
I had no idea, and I think being blind to it was absolute godsend.
Yeah.
But I wanted, well, my partner at the time, he was a Londoner, and he was a graphic designer. He'd also had a t-shirt brand in London, and we had all sorts of ideas to what we should do. We weren't great at being employed. Like we were just opinionated and wanted to dance to our own beat and create something. And we're both creators at heart. I came from a family of artists and painters and photographers, and yeah, I mean, also they had practical jobs in my family, but there's definitely a gene there for artistry. And I guess as a refugee family, you don't get, possibly my parents didn't encourage me to go to art school because that's not where you're going to get a well-paid job. You know, the irony of it is my brother's now done an architecture degree and I'm in a profession. So you can't stifle what's there. But
No.
I think the idea, we were thinking about food, and that felt even harder, to be honest, like the lifespan of food. And we didn't do it with too much. We just kind of did it. Like we were like, let's work out what our values are and what fits into that. And a friend of mine, we were at a vegetarian restaurant in Wellington, and she said, why don't you start a Fairtrade organic cotton clothing brand? Very clearly. And I love this friend. She's incredible. And I said to her, what's that? And I went home and I Googled it. I mean, this is so naive. And next thing, I was placing an order for 1,000 T-shirts, I think. And we had these, when we first started, they were very political T-shirts. I actually think they do really well now. Yeah, like, you know, fashion does all come around, right? Yeah.
What did they look like? Were they logo tees? Did they have statements on them? When you say political, what were they?
They were pretty full on. We did these ones that our first account ever was Universal Store in Australia, and they had a bunch of retailers. So they've got 20 or 30 retailers. It was a big deal for a brand that's never sold anything to get picked up by one of the largest street retailers in Australia. And they placed an order, but they said, we don't want your normal size men's T-shirt. We want you to slim them down for the Aussie boys. And we made a slim fit T-shirt, and they were pretty tight for the muscle boys.
Yeah.
And they were fluoro yellow, and they had fluoro pink and green Mary Magdalene and Jesus naked. It was so full on. It was so full on. And the owner of the store saw what they were when the boxes got unopened. The owner of Universal Store, and he sent them all back. So we've been trying to sell these T-shirts and workroom sales. I think we got rid of the last one only like 4 years ago.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But,
Oh, wow. Okay, so there was a little bit of a speed bump there. So firstly, how did you get over that? And let's share with everyone the meaning behind the name Kowtow as well.
Well, the cash flow bump, the cash flow hurdle that we would have, I don't remember. It was 20 years ago. I really don't remember. And I think I'm just that kind of person that goes, well, that happened. Let's just get over and just start again, you know? And I think the good thing in fashion is that you're already selling another season, or you're already designing 3 seasons ahead. It's so mixed up with cash flow that to wind down a fashion brand, I think it would take at least 18 months. We've already got stuff in production at the factory, you know? The fabric's been made for us nearly 2 years prior to us putting it out into the shop. So I think
you'd moved on.
Timeframes are just really benign in fashion. They're quite bizarre. But the name Kowtow, the correct pronunciation is actually Kowtow. So people are correct. I'm wrong. And I read it in the dictionary and went, oh, that sounds great. And it's to kowtow to the emperor in China, and you bow to them with your head to the ground as a sign of respect. And I thought that's a really, really lovely word. And of course, because I'm incredibly practical Polish, I Googled whether kowtowclothing.com was available, and it was. Unfortunately, kowtow.com wasn't available because that's the ultimate. I didn't need that.
Yeah.
I don't like surplus things, and I think it comes through in the garments, but the word clothing really bothered me. It still does, but it's there now, 20 years.
Well, it stood the test of time, and we're going with your pronunciation today. We're going with Kowtow because I clarified that before we started to record. But yeah, a lot of Aussies do say Kowtow, but as you said, it's actually the correct pronunciation. So long before you launched, when you launched back in 2006, long before sustainability became a major industry conversation, what gave you that conviction to keep going? Obviously, you had the bump in the road with the 1,000 T-shirts that got rejected and you were already probably on to the next season. What gave you that conviction to just keep going, knowing that sustainability and ethical fashion was going to be the ethos from the beginning to the end?
I was already too deep into it to stop. But I was really, really interested in trying to understand where they came from and how they were made. I was blown away that we didn't have that understanding until really the Rana Plaza disaster happened in Bangladesh. And so many people died. There's a factory that collapsed. And then it really made people aware of, that moment made people aware of how their clothing, where is it made and who makes it. But prior to that, and I still think to today, we don't realise that every single garment touches a pair of hands. Every single garment. Even a knitted jumper that a machine is knitting, you've still got to link the collar onto the main body. And it's through hands. It's the stitching on my shirt, which is so neat. You would think this is a fully automated process. It goes through a pair of fingers. Every single part of this shirt. It absolutely blows me away that I don't think the average person on the street really realises that. No. And that's why today I just still think what we're doing is so important because it is a basic need. And I'm really interested more in that than fashion. I love design, obviously, but I'm more interested in giving people solutions. I think that is more my mission in life. So I felt when I started researching around Fairtrade and organics and certification, I felt that was a really great place to start. Yeah.
How difficult has the education piece been? As you said, the average person does not really understand what goes into just making an average garment, never mind one that is built mindfully with sustainability in mind across every single component, every single process. How have you brought the education side into the brand, and has it been challenging to have to educate as you create?
Yeah, it is. It's really challenging. And the only reason is because we digest information. Apart from what you're doing right now, which is long form, we consume everything in 15 seconds. So they sit me at work and they say, great, we want to do some reels with you. But can you say what you want to say in 10 seconds? I mean, it's a joke.
I know.
I mean, I blinked and that's a second. So it's a real challenge to communicate what we do. So what we've done, we have an amazing art director with us at the moment. He did a bunch of years of work in London and he just happened to land in New Zealand. And he's really getting us sorted and thinking in advance of the messaging that we want to tell our customer and just putting it into not saying everything all at once, because I used to just be like, fair trade, organic, plastic free. Just everything all at once, whereas we just really concentrate now. For 5 months, we're going to talk about biochar, which is our moment at the moment. Last year, we launched our first ever plastic-free collection. So we talked about that for 6 months. We didn't, I think I used to talk about things for about a day and think that everybody got it. They don't. It's because everybody consumes information in different ways and they might see it in different places. So what I realized is we've got to slow down and say the same thing over and over and over again in different ways, but say the same thing, same message. So, and make it quite simple, really. So it depends what platform it's living on, whether it's a long article or it's a social post. It really needs to change for that. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more, because I think consistency and repetition is key. Even when I was researching for our conversation, I think I watched your reel on biochar 5 or 6 times. I'm like, hang on a minute. Every time I listened to it, I learned something new. Like I'm like, oh, I didn't catch that. I didn't catch that the first time round. I didn't catch that the second time round. So it makes complete sense that you can't just say something that can be quite complex in the background to achieve amazing milestones. And I do want to talk about biochar, so this is a nice kind of segue into it. You can't just drop that, few second reel and expect it to land and for people to really understand that and embody it. It takes time.
Exactly, and especially in most fashion brands, just speak about the design and the product, whereas we're trying to explain the concept too. And we've always found it so difficult to do the two at once. But thank God for our new art director. I mean, he's also a vegan, so he embodies the values and he gets it a lot more. He was going to quit fashion before he got this job. So it's kind of the perfect person. It's the anti. That's what we're looking for.
Yeah. Like you said, if someone's embodying that lifestyle and really believes in what you're doing as a brand and a business, then I guess it becomes a much more seamless process. It's still not easy, but you're avoiding one level of friction that could be there. If even the art director coming in can't quite get their head around it, you're challenged from the start. So that sounds pretty exciting to have someone like that has come in. And as you said, if they were thinking about quitting fashion and now, they're on board with Kowtow and excited about what you're doing, that truly says something. So you've had so many milestones over the journey, Gosia, but let's talk about biochar, because as I said, I was watching all of your reels and your amazing content. So Kowtow has recently reached an amazing milestone that reflects the original vision that you had for the brand. So from the beginning, you spoke about clothing coming from the earth and safely returning to the earth at the end of its life. You've now developed a process using biochar that allows Kowtow garments to be returned to the soil without harm, completely free from synthetic materials and plastic.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to share that journey.
Yeah,
amazing.
That's the key. That last thing that you just said is completely free from plastics and synthetics, because I think we don't want other brands to go along and start making their clothes into biochar, because there's a lot of homework to be done before you get to it. It can't be a solution for every brand, even though we are an open source company and we encourage people to come to us and ask us questions, and because we want the entire industry to work out how we can all do this more sustainably. So in lockdown, we had more fibres in our program. So we didn't just have the Fairtrade organic cotton that we originally started with, but we had wool. The wool, there are no more processing units at the level that we need in New Zealand. So we were sending it to China for processing. So that was already compromising our production chain. We had regenerated nylon swimwear. So it was regenerated from fishing nets in the Mediterranean that were melted down, but they were mixed with lycra. And there isn't a place, and I'd love for someone to get in touch if there is, that can separate the nylon and the lycra. So as soon as you start mixing fibres, it becomes really, really difficult for regeneration and trying to work out how to do this. We've seen at our factory when they make the yarn, right at the last level, they mix in 20% polyester with the cotton to save literally 2 cents, per garment. Yeah. And you just think, what are you doing? But I guess for brands that are much larger than us, the big guys, 2 cents times 2 million is a lot of money. For us, it isn't. It doesn't matter if it's 2 cents more. Who cares? So we were just quite staunch from the beginning when we first started. Like, I didn't use zips. When I saw a zip, in my very naive way of thinking, I thought, this is made up of metal, plastic, cotton. There are so many components in this. Why do we use it? And I wasn't a trained fashion designer. I just thought, I'll just do something without it, and I'll do a bit of origami thing, and I'll drape the fabric a different way. And I didn't know I was using sewing techniques incorrectly on the wrong materials, But it's I think that it's a blessing. And so from the moment when I started the brand 20 years ago, we already had a selected amount of trims. So when we went plastic free in lockdown, we decided, the world was basically going berserk. People made some pretty crazy decisions, and so did we. And we said, why don't we go back to our original roots of what we feel comfortable with and our transparent production chain, which is only Fairtrade organic cotton and only go back to cotton. And at the same time, why don't we eliminate every single plastic component in our garments? But because we made good decisions at the beginning, 20 years ago, we only have a few to replace. So one of the components was elastic in the waistbands.
Yep.
We made that for natural rubber. Our buttons are now shells and nuts. We had to replace the fusible in the collars. We've made an alternative shoulder pad with cotton wadding, bespoke to us. I mean, it's like luxury, really. But one of the hardest things to replace was the stitching in the garments. So every single garment, and even though our labels legally can say 100% cotton, the garments are far from 100% cotton. They actually have a whole bunch of components in there. The buttons, zips, elastic, fusible, and the stitching, which are actually toxic. So these elements are plastic, and if you go to regenerate your garments, a lot of people end up in landfill. Those plastic components will never break down. We made some really, really good decisions at the beginning, and in lockdown, we made a massive decision to go plastic free. And going plastic free is the reason why we've been able to now regenerate our clothing back to the earth through a process called biochar. But if we still had those plastic components, we wouldn't be here where we are now, because you could still do it, but you'd have to cut out every seam. And then what do you do with that waste? We have an impact report. We have a sustainability strategy. We work towards the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals as a company. We are accountable to what we make. As a designer, we work out the solution because the government's not going to do it. Not in New Zealand, maybe in Australia. Definitely not in New Zealand at the moment. And, the customer shouldn't have to think about what to do with it. It shouldn't be up to them. I think that we pass on that responsibility to someone who's purchased it. That's not fair. That's actually just passing on the guilt. I guess we think very practically at Kowtow. And we thought, shoot, we've actually got a ton of our Regenerate program after 20 years. So we're a small-sized brand, and for some people that might sound like a lot. I'd say after 20 years, most brands have got, God knows what they're doing with it. Do you know what I mean? God knows. Our sustainability, head of sustainability and supply chain, Tessa, she sees our ton of clothing that isn't being used for anything at the moment as a resource. She doesn't see it as waste. And so we took a few hundred kgs away from that, and we did this biochar trial to create something that is very beneficial for soil, and we've had it lab tested, and we're the world's first to do it, which is absolutely incredible. We couldn't have done it if we hadn't replaced that stitching. It would have just been too cumbersome. You can't sit there and cut out every single seam. It's ridiculous. It would take too long.
No.
And it wouldn't be
absolutely
cost effective. But to replace this synthetic yarn to cotton yarn, the factories actually have to stitch slower because it breaks in the machine. So our supply chain partners have to work alongside us to create these solutions. It's a really interesting way. And just in 2 collections, we've replaced enough yarn, stitching yarn, from synthetic to organic cotton that can wrap around the world halfway. And
how did you measure that?
Well,
that's amazing.
We measured the circumference of the planet, and then we measured how much yarn we use to stitch the garment. And because we have the head of supply chain and sustainability, that's her job, because we have to quantify everything for our impact report just to keep ourselves accountable. Yeah.
I love it. I love that you've actually gone down that path. It is full on, and that's why I really want to break it down. I think we'll circle back to biochar, but let's talk about plastic free, because it is quite the undertaking. So you're talking about using cotton exclusively. You've got all of the components. So you've got the nut and the shell buttons. You've got the 100% Fairtrade organic cotton yarn that you're using, which comes with its challenges because it's not as strong. So that impacts on the production efficiency all the time. And then the metal components. So you're sourcing those from Germany. So the D-rings and the tacks, which can be recycled. You haven't used zippers for nearly 2 decades. So you've got to find a solution for whatever you would typically use a zipper for when you're looking at garment construction. I think cotton wadding. So it's every single component. So first and foremost, there's not a lot of brands and designers that would go to that depth of effort. But when we think about the design, so going right back to the beginning, obviously you've got those components that you can use. Has there been limitations from a design perspective? Firstly, how long did it take you to get to plastic free? How long did that entire journey take where you said, all right, from today, we've done it?
Yeah, most changes for us, most production changes take us 18 months because our production chain is 18 months. We're actually a season ahead of every other designer because of our long production chains, because the cotton gets picked at the farm and then every single cloth is made to us bespoke. So the warp, the weft, the colour, it's all bespoke to us from the time that the cotton is picked, and we've paid a deposit to the farmers. So we don't want these fabric merchants, which means that our production chain is insanely long. That is a massive challenge for us.
So there's that. There's another element there. So there's kind of challenges at every touch point. What about from the design side? So with your design team, did they find this limiting? So when they're given the undertaking that it's plastic free, these are the fabrics and the components that you can use. You can't go outside of this. What did that look like, and how did it play out? Was there any pushback, or is everyone like, yep, we're on board, this is a challenge and we're going to solve it together?
We've worked with a number of designers, and at the moment we've got an amazing designer with us who did a really long time at a heritage brand in New Zealand called Zambezi Dane, and he's our head designer. And he was used to working with, more of a traditional palette of materials. But what I've learned with all the designers is that there's nothing like a tight design brief. There's also an aesthetic that has come about because of the lack of ingredients, which that it is, and I think cotton lends itself to it, is that it is robust, utilitarian, practical, comfortable, off the body. We don't make tight dresses, but we're known for an aesthetic that is loose and off the body, and thank God that aesthetic has been embraced by women for 2 decades now to keep us employed. But, like the shirt I'm wearing, it doesn't need particularly everything. So we just stay within our lane, and that's what we do. I don't get too caught up. If somebody wants something else, you just go to a different designer. So many amazing designers in Australia and New Zealand to go to. But what we want to be known for is really, our mission is to replace synthetics out of people's wardrobes for a Kowtow alternative that is fair trade, organic, plastic free, and fully circular. And we've proven that. And I think if you want to come to us, and it's some really great staples, some really great basics that have a fashion edge, that's what we provide people. It's the everyday. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. Congratulations on achieving all of that at every single touch point. It's quite mind-blowing, especially because
it's simple. Like, actually, we've given people the ingredients, and when I look at it, I'm like, oh God, is that it? Like, there's like 5 ingredients in some cloth. Like, the more we add, the more complicated it becomes. I saw an exhibition somewhere in Denmark or somewhere, but it was a fridge, and they had put every single component of the fridge or washing machine out onto the wall and labelled how many materials it was made from. And it's just like, there's no need. If you're going to use a plastic, use the one type of plastic that the country can recycle. Why are you using 6 different types of plastic and all these different components when sometimes there just isn't a need? You're just doing it because of maybe rushing. Oh, that supplier's got that and that. You kind of have to pause and think and go, hang on, that doesn't make sense. That's just complicated.
I love the way you've explained that, and it's like you have stripped it back. You've stripped it back to the core elements, and I love how you share that. I downloaded your plastic-free handbook, and I love that you could go through each element. So you could go through what you're using as your outerwear fabric. You could go through what the cotton wadding was and where it comes from, and the Fairtrade organic cotton yarn that you're using and so forth. So you could really get an understanding of all of the building blocks of the end garment. And as you said, we can overcomplicate it. I think being in the industry and, having the world at your oyster and all of the options out there, you go on a buying trip, whether that's to India or China, and you're in showrooms and you're seeing garment after garment, roll of fabric after roll of fabric, accessory booklets and prints and trim, and you're like, wow, I could actually do anything here with all of these raw materials. But as you said, when you strip it right back, you don't need that many components. And of course, being mindful in the choices that you're making to ensure that your garments can be returned back to the earth.
And we're lucky we're working with a natural fibre it's got so many ways to work with. You know, we can create knitwear, flat knits out of it. We can increase the weight of those flat knits or decrease the weight. When you decrease it and it's a fine knit, I mean, it's as soft as cashmere. It's beautiful to wear.
Yeah.
And we're very spoiled at Kowtow because we're all wearing this lovely fabric. So, you know, you don't sweat in it. You don't feel disgusting in it. It's breathable, natural. But you can, you know, like a crisp cotton shirt, which I love the most. It's my most favourite thing in the world. But, you know, you can do very clever pattern making and pleats, you know, almost treat it like paper, which I love.
Yeah. I love your new, I think it's called the Makers striped shirt. I love that one. That's next on my list. There's a top I have of yours. I think it's called the Field Top. It's like a really fine, it's got like the little kind of wide sleeves. It's beautiful. But as you said, it's almost like a cashmere. It's so fine. The knit is so fine and delicate and, of course, breathable, which we all love. So exciting that you're able to do so much with what perhaps another brand might think is so little in terms of what they have in front of them to actually design their next collection. I'd love to talk about your supply chain partners that are obviously, you know, helping you to achieve all of these goals. So over time, you've built a trusted ecosystem of amazing supply chain partners. How have those relationships developed across the journey? And I know how important they are. The question is, how important are they? But I know how important they are. But how important have they been to help you maintain these standards that you've put in place in terms of how you operate today?
So one of the partners is in Calcutta, and they're responsible for most of our cotton jersey, and we've been with them for 20 years, and they work with Fairtrade organic certified cotton. And the other one is just north of Mumbai. It's more rural, and he actually has a mango farm as well. And they have been working with us probably for over a decade, and they are more responsible for our wovens. Because some of the Kowtow garments, we do like to use a lot of fabric, they've actually purchased special machinery and fusing presses that are especially for us. So they can see the value in us as a customer and we work alongside them. But yeah, I mean, what the Fairtrade labelling organisation does, and a lot of brands are organic certified, but they're not Fairtrade. But what's great with Fairtrade is that the entire production chain is certified, and you can go and visit this production chain. With organic, you don't get that transparency. With cotton, it's an incredibly complex production chain. So the cotton first grows at the field and gets picked, then it goes to a ginning mill, which is off-site, where the cotton fluff gets separated from the seed. Then the fluff goes to a spinning mill to get made into a yarn, and we dictate what yarn that is, so the weight. And then it gets made into a fabric, and the fabric can be a woven or a knitted fabric. And then it goes to a factory. The factories, it's actually the last stop, and that is where it gets cut and stitched and pressed and ready for shipping to New Zealand. And we also have warehousing in America and Australia. So it's an incredibly long production chain, but it's very important for us to understand it, to get to know it and become closer with it. So we visit the production chain every 6 months. Our Krista, our production manager, goes there. Emma, our managing director, Tessa, our head of supply chain sustainability, and myself, we go there. It's really great having a relationship that is that long-standing. A lot of bigger brands would cost out a garment and see where it gets made the cheapest and go with that supplier. That's not something we do. They cost it out, we have a negotiation process, and then we settle on something. And if it has to be that we pass on the increasing costs to our customer, at some point you have to do that and make that decision. We didn't actually make that decision for a really long time. It's just part of the negotiation rather than abrupt no's. Yeah.
So truly is that seed to garment philosophy in terms of the
we've been to the farms, where you go, what has the Fairtrade Premium meant for you as the farmer? Because the Fairtrade Premium is there to look after people at the bottom of the production chain. So coffee, tea, sugar, bananas, whatever, all these amazing Fairtrade products we can do. It was always the farmers that were the ones that were most shafted. So what it does, it gives them a premium, which they collectively get to choose what they want to spend it on, whether it's education projects, clean water, wells, hearing aids. One village got hearing aids. It works, and we've seen it work with our own very eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. There's so many things I could dive into there, but I'm going to start just with the financial sustainability, because as you've rightly said, a lot of brands would perhaps move on if they weren't getting the right prices, trying to negotiate. Obviously, we're in a pretty tough economic climate at the moment, but you've had these long-term partnerships and there's a lot of things that are adding value there. And as you said, you held off for quite a while in terms of putting your retail prices up. Everything we've heard today, just in this brief conversation so far, there's a lot of complexity that you have in your business that, perhaps another fashion business may not even be, it's not even on their radar. How have you made this financially sustainable? I think this might just tie into your customer, who your customer is and the appreciation they actually have for what you're doing. But how have you made it financially sustainable? Have you hit roadblocks over the journey thinking, I actually can't make these margins work based on the components, everything that I'm doing adds cost, but maybe it can't add value on the other end in terms of putting the RRP up accordingly. How have you worked through all of that?
Well, the good thing in fashion is that you do get to, and maybe we're not the smartest fashion designers, and we have a board now and they are telling us that we do need to have more styles that we repeat, but we have like 80% of our collection is brand new every single season. We just love to design. And maybe it's not the smartest move, but it does mean that if the customer has never seen it and they're seeing it for the first time, you do have an opportunity to price it accordingly. So that's there. The demand is there. Our customers are responding to us. They love it. We explain the values. We shoot it beautifully in Sydney every single season. These international gals that have come off the catwalks, we've driven the desirability. I think the formula is there and the demand is there. We're definitely hitting hurdles at the moment where we design a season, the whole season, 6 months, and then we drip feed it out. So we will have the delivery in January, and then we'll do a drop in February, then another one in March, April, May, and then in fashion sales, June, July, and December, January. So actually we're sitting on cash flow from January, and not getting that money in through to May. But actually, we paid for that product 18 months ago with that deposit. As we try and scale at the moment, because we're very ambitious and now we really think, why not give the dirty guys a run for their money? This should be everything. Like, be no shame in being sustainable, ethical brand and still growing within the construct that we live under. So why not give people an alternative under capitalism?
Yeah.
Because this is a capitalist approach that I'm describing, but doesn't work at the moment. We're having to problem solve as a team. How can we make this work? We haven't got a solution, but we will get there, because these are the sort of roadblocks that we've had along the way, where you have to be nimble and you have to change, and you have to possibly renegotiate new terms, change the way that you design. Nothing is a given in our industry. We have to adapt. We used to have a spring, summer, autumn, winter season. No one does that anymore. Yeah, maybe in the marketing to the customer, and the luxury brands set it with their runway shows, but that's not who we are. Yeah, it's interesting. There's definitely, I love nothing more than a problem and a problem-solving session. I thrive on that. I think if you don't thrive on that, then you shouldn't be in business.
I think being in business, you have to be ready to be a professional problem solver, right? It's what you're doing on the daily, like pretty much every hour, every day. You just want better problems to solve, that's all.
And we have an incredible senior leadership team, incredible. They are absolutely capable of solving any problem if you put them into a room. So we have the right company structure to get these problems solved.
I love that. Have there been any solutions, just for our listeners, have there been any solutions that have come to the forefront around that cash flow challenge? As you rightly said, it's a very long lead time for your money to be tied up.
So far, we haven't come across massive cash flow problems. So we've been self-funded from the get-go. I got $5,000 from the government to start the brand with. We were just very, very, very careful with our growth. So we
Yeah.
have 3 stores, Wellington, Auckland, Melbourne. But now we want to fast track our ambition, and we want to do 3 more stores in Australia in the next 3 years, and realizing actually our current model doesn't work towards that ambition. So how do we solve that? And so we haven't solved it. I mean, this is literally, we're in this right now, this week. Yeah.
Are you open to investment? Like, is that something that you would consider?
We have a board now, and our board is an advisory board, and it's fantastic. I would recommend for any fashion brand to have some level of advisory and mentorship. But at the moment, we haven't formally gone out to look for investment. But I wouldn't rule it out for the future. At the moment, we're trying to see if we can do this still with self-growth and self-funding, because there's nothing better not to have a whole bunch of people to be accountable to. You know, people are accountable to just me, and I fully believe in it. So, of course, I'm ready to part with money to grow the brand. But it gets a lot more hardcore when you have investors. So we just want to tweak how we can do things internally with our processes to see if that frees up money. We just have constant scenario building with cash flows. Hunts is incredible. She's head of finance for the company, and she's constantly building scenario 1, scenario 2, and then we talk about that. Okay, that doesn't work. We're up to like scenario 1023 now, you know. So and I love it. I think a lot of great ideas can come from that when money and creativity, you know, come together.
Yeah, you definitely need that collective knowledge, don't you, as you start to grow and evolve. And as you said, you're doing all of the what if scenarios.
Yeah.
How did you assemble your advisory board, Gosia?
We have an incredible managing director, Emma. She actually put it together for me. So she's actually been advising me, you know. Because I actually live in London for most of the year too. So we did need something to... I was just sending off all these crazy emails in the middle of the night and like text messages, and it was just out of control, you know. I'd wake up and there was like, you know, 102 great ideas from Gosia that day. So the advisory board's great because it means that all the senior leadership team have to create monthly packs, and I can read over them and I can understand how the month's gone and what's in the future. And rather than being very reactive, which I think I'd say any founder is. And the way she chose them was, we've got Dan, who's ex-PwC, general business advice, knows his stuff, but also has amazing compassion, has never ever once told me not to be so weird, because we're weird. You know, has never gone, maybe you should not do that because financially it doesn't make sense. He's gone, you need to go deeper into circularity. You need to tell that story more. You know, he gets it, and he's been with us for a number of years. We've just got an amazing board member, Jane. She's fantastic, and she's an Australian who has done huge across many companies, big companies in Australia in fashion. And she's been like, we've only done 3 sessions with her, and it's like life-changing. Yeah. Just when you thought you had all your shit together, you don't.
There's always more to learn, isn't there?
Just these people. Look, I think for me, for an advisory board, they have to had a ton of experience. Dan doesn't have fashion-specific experience, but that's not what we needed him for. He's also the chair. But moving forward with the people that are joining the board, they have to be fashion-specific. That's what we've learned. Maybe we would go into beauty, but no, I don't think so. Now that we're trying to grow into Australia, we really want these people to have Australian-specific, with an Australian lens. So for us to succeed, we've got to get the advice of the people that are on the ground in the market.
I love that. So powerful. So you have your advisory board, and you've mentioned your leadership team. What does the entire team at Kowtow look like? You mentioned you're living in London most of the year. You've got your stores in New Zealand. You've got a store here in Melbourne. Your HQ, is that in
Wellington.
Auckland or Wellington? Wellington. So, how did the leadership team come together, and what does the remainder of the team look like since you're in London?
Yeah, that was Emma's doing too. I mean, she's incredible. Yeah. So we have, I'm going to miss out who these people are, but, you know, you've got production in there, you've got sales in there, you've got marketing in there, in art direction, managing director, finance, you know, the usual candidates. And then those people have teams. And so the leadership team meet once a week at the beginning of the week. go over, the first thing we start with is finances, of course, to see did we meet target from the previous week? Have we not? Can we celebrate? Unfortunately, it's just so full on that you can't rest on your laurels. You've got to, and then what's coming up in the marketing calendar? What are some of the hurdles that some of the other team members might be bringing in? Is there a production delay? What's happening? How can we go through it? Sometimes you might have a fabric that's had a fault, and because of our minimums, we, like for example, this blue and white stripe that I'm wearing, we've made it into 3 styles because we've had to use up the fabric that we committed to. Well, let's say this stripe doesn't arrive, but it's the key hero piece in that drop. Well, we've got to hustle up a different narrative, don't we? And that's just how it goes. And the more people you have in fashion in your business that have got experience with that, it's the norm.
Yes.
This isn't a hurdle. It's just the norm. Right. It's not coming. Doesn't matter. Let's do this.
You got to pivot swiftly.
The whole time. I would say if you can't pivot and you don't like change, fashion is probably not the place for you.
No, totally agree. So all of those dynamics are in place. So what does a typical day in your life as the owner of Kowtow look like? Like managing the business from sitting in London, are you straight? I'm assuming you're working crazy hours because of the time difference, but are you basically on video calls with the advisory board, the leadership team? Like how does that play out for you on the daily?
I tried to when I met my partner when I was sampling the collection in India at the hotel,
right?
And we fell in love and had a baby pretty quickly. He was doing a music video clip. He's a film director, and life brought us to London, where he's from. And I tried to do, with a baby, meetings into the night, and it killed me. It killed my health. I had a cough that I couldn't get rid of. I had pain in my body. It absolutely destroyed me. So this is when we got more of a formalized system, and Emma really put this in for us. And so really my day-to-day is I don't work day-to-day in the business when I'm in London. I take a fortnightly call with the art director. I check in with the designer and head of production, and I'll do once a month board meetings, and Emma and I will take casual calls. But really there is no decisions to be made through me. The decisions get made through the senior leadership team. They shouldn't be made through me. I'm not the expert. I don't understand production. I don't even know how to use that software. I would be a terrible person to advise on anything. But when I'm in New Zealand, which I have been for the previous 6 months, I was coming in and spending a lot of time with Dane, our head designer, a lot of time with Bob, our art director. I do tend to go more into the creative side of the business. I can be very opinionated. And sometimes, though, I think that my opinion of the creativity is actually also lagging in time and not beneficial to the team. So, and it can actually be quite destructive. So if I say, I'm not vibing on something, something really vague like that, I don't know the decision-making that's gone behind it. And because I'm the boss, then that gets thrown out the window. And that's actually not the best way of doing things. So setting them up for success and being autonomous is the best thing they can do. But we're definitely now learning to be more of a senior company with product planning, merchandise planning.
Yeah, I know. The things that get you to one stage of business are not going to get you to the next. And there's more, the bigger the business, the more complex. You've got to have industry best practice merchandise planning in place. You've got to be right on top of your financials. All of the things that might have been a bit fluid in the early days, obviously, no longer serve you.
Yeah.
Can I ask, how has your leadership style evolved based on everything you've just shared? And as you said, setting the team up for success, ensuring they have autonomy, being very mindful of the comments and the contribution that you make and how that might affect everything in the back end and have a flow-on effect. How have you developed yourself as a leader? Gosh, have you had any help? Have you had a mentor? Have you done any kind of, further development on yourself over the journey?
We've all gone through leadership training at Kowtow, so actually all the way down to manager level. So everybody has. It's like personal therapy, but corporate, because you start to realize, what bird are you, or what animal are you, or something. What I realized was I was a perfectionist, and I thought perfectionism was a good thing. So I've always prided myself as I'm a Virgo and I'm a perfectionist. I didn't realize until I sat in that room for leadership training that perfectionism kills creativity. It kills collaboration. it's an opinion that, you can just go down to such a minute level and you lose the bigger picture. So learning these things about myself and keeping them in check, and I think that's what leadership training / therapy does. So I've also, we learned about radical candor in leadership training. So, I'll get taken aside sometimes and be told, hey, that thing you said out loud actually does really affect people. And I've got to suck it up and take that on board and go, oh, okay, cool. Like, what a thing to be given. What a gift to be given in life, to be held accountable, and so I think all of those little things make a difference. But I have a tendency to sort of come in like a bulldozer. I'm very vivacious, and I use a lot of humor, which can be good, but it can also be just annoying and sidetrack people. I have a tendency of making meetings go on for too long and not being respectful of people's time frames, and so I just need to be more grown up, more aware of all of that. It's just like, put your big girl pants on and stop being a child, Don't walk in and be a baby.
I love that. And I love that everyone's done the training as well, so that you really, you've all got an insight into this and you're all developing kind of at the same time. Whose idea was the leadership training?
That's Kathy, so absolutely incredible, and head of culture and people. So that's definitely, she's been running that show in increasing self-awareness in the company and making the culture what it is today. Yeah.
I love that. Well, congratulations to you and your team for embarking on that, because not for the faint-hearted, and it's a lot of work. Like you said, it can be like therapy as well.
Oh, totally. It's quite confronting, especially when you're sitting with your workmates. It's quite weird.
Yeah. But you're seeing the benefits.
It's weird for us because we're a creative bunch. We're not corporate people. We're in fashion.
Yeah.
So sometimes these things can feel a little bit like they're not for us, but actually, why are we excluding ourselves from the way that the world actually operates? The financial world. So let's just be part of it. Let's lean in and understand it. Yeah. I think I'd like to now let's talk about the Kowtow retail footprint, and you've also got the wholesale arm of the business. So we've got online, we've got the wholesale side, and we've got physical retail. You mentioned about, growing and expansion, and you're in multiple markets. Let's talk about where Kowtow is today in terms of the retail footprint, and where would you like it to be, let's just say, in the next 5 years or so? Yeah, so we have a flagship store in Wellington. It's a beautiful shop. It's actually my favourite one. It was the one that was done on the biggest budget, and I think it's just amazing. It's so robust. And we have a beautiful Auckland store and a stunning store in North Melbourne, which is quite small, but absolutely beautiful. It's one of the old, I guess, it would have been originally residential, right, those houses? Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
I think what we did right from the very beginning is we worked with an interior architect, Rufus Knight, and he is a darling of the New Zealand industry. He's done global projects as well, and what he really understands is materiality. And so we said to him, we want to know where every material in the store has come from and why you've used it, and just really restrict the palette to what's needed. And so he absolutely nailed that brief. So every piece that we've chosen in the stores tells a story. So the counter, the Wellington counter, is a huge, long counter. It's probably like 8 meters long or something. But all the tiles are handmade by someone that is a friend of his in Auckland, Guidon. So then now we stock Guidon ceramics as well. The lamps come from an island off Japan, and they've been making them for, over a century. So beautiful paper, huge paper lanterns. And just, really stunning joinery. We've also worked with architects and makers that can actualize this vision. And I think not skimping out on that at the beginning is definitely the way forward. But moving into the future, we've learned a lot from what makes a good retail space and what doesn't. And every space will have its challenges. So, in Wellington, we didn't do our back room big enough. Luckily, we have the workroom above, so the girls can access the staff wardrobe and do everything from upstairs to downstairs. We got that a bit better in Auckland, and then in Melbourne we've actually got a whole top floor for all the stock and unpacking. You don't realise how much space you need. It's crazy. But then in Melbourne, the store is so beautiful. It's such a neighbourhood feeling store. It's absolutely stunning. But it's also long and narrow. And actually that doesn't make the perfect footprint either. But I always get caught up on how a building feels, in the street and the creativity behind it. But maybe I would like to start thinking more practically into the future. Yeah, so where we really want to open more retail is Australia. And we would like to open 3 more stores in the next 3 years.
Amazing.
Maybe we should be more ambitious. I mean, you never know. Once we get to the 3rd store, we might just think, stuff it, let's do 8. But
how has the Australian business grown over time, Gosia? Like just for our audience, how significant is the Australian market for you and how has it grown over time?
What we've realised this season is the more we spend in marketing in Australia, telling Australian stories, shooting our Australian, whether it be some of the people that we work through social media or telling the stories of people that are associated with the brand through maybe flower growing or ceramics or whatever it may be, the more we lean into telling those Australian stories, the more sales we make. It's just direct. So we weren't telling those. We were saying, let's make more sales in Australia and let's pay for social advertising in Australia. But we were still telling the Australians a New Zealand focused story. So now let's work with people in Australia. And now we're, exceeding our targets week on week in Australia. So it's just so good. I guess it's like, thank God that what we do is working, because sometimes it doesn't.
I love that though, because it's such an important point. You have to localize your brand, don't you? You can't just have one strategy across the globe. And I actually watched that reel with Lewin Flowers. I loved that. And she told her story. So it was very captivating. And it's almost like the product and the brand was secondary because you were so captivated by her story as a flower grower. And so, it certainly stops the scroll. And then you're like, oh my God, there's her amazing outfit. Oh, and it's Kowtow. So it's just, feels really authentic the way that those stories are being told.
And that's what we want our customer to see is authenticity. The clothing has an honesty to it and the brand has an honesty. We want to portray these honest customers as well. We did runway once or twice or something and it's not my go-to. It's just I'd rather tell the stories of people.
So Australia, growing online, growing the retail footprint, what other regions? So outside of New Zealand and Australia, what are your other biggest markets?
America after that. So we did operate in Europe up until lockdown and we had a significant amount of retailers, including Galeries Lafayette, which is a beautiful department store in Paris. And we sold in Paris and Berlin, London. We had showrooms every season for about 10 years. I had an office in East London next to Alexa Chung. She was my neighbour. We employed a person there. In lockdown, we closed all of that down. And really what was difficult was the seasonality. We did start to do merino wool and things like that. But the fact that the seasons are opposite, we just weren't big enough team to really lean into that. And so we had a massive decision. And I still feel sad about it, especially when I get to London and I'm like, oh my God, we had the most amazing stockists and we had to say goodbye to them. You call it the breakup in fashion. And so what we did, we decided to be more strategic. We leaned into being 100% Fairtrade organic plastic-free cotton clothing only. We let go of the swimwear, the wool, and really we were like, we have not capitalized on Australia where it is hot all the time. This product can succeed, and also America, because the West Coast, they do have the same temperate climate that New Zealand and Australia have. I mean, New Zealand is so down south. But so we have an agent in New York who does a fabulous job giving us extra accounts every season. We used to have a huge wholesale database. We had about 200 retailers. I think we've halved that. We're probably about 100, but I don't know. I was trying to figure it out last night in bed. Yeah, it must be around that 100, 120 mark. The wholesale team will be killing me for not knowing. Because they work their arse off for every single one of those retailers. So, but we have David Jones in Australia. We call it, it's no longer wholesalers, it's really partners. That's what we call it. So it's a partnership. We want to work with people on a partnership level that want to see each other succeed. If something isn't
Yeah.
working, there is a conversation that goes into it. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love
And
that.
so
Do you see your
wholesale,
own?
sorry.
Go on.
No,
Go
wholesale
on.
is a small part of our business. It's really most of the business is D2C. And retail, I think this is quite weird, to be honest, is doing really well. And I think
Yeah. Good.
this is the opposite of what should be happening in a digitized world. There's clearly some sort of human psyche that still enjoys not being glued to their phone and going out and going onto their local high street and having a coffee and browsing in stores and talking to actual store people.
Absolutely. I think we're definitely seeing that shift, people wanting to return to events and community and, as you said, that whole experience of actually walking into a store, because I think we're just so bombarded with the digital world and with AI and everything that's coming at us, and also the state of the world at the moment. So a little bit of a escapism going into a beautiful retail environment, beautiful product, and that whole experience I think is absolute gold at the moment. So we're definitely seeing that physical retail resurgence, which is great.
There's nothing better than actually just trying it on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you looking at stores in the US like in the future? Is that kind of, would you like that to be part of your retail footprint, to have physical retail stores in the US?
Firstly, we want to succeed in Australia. So, I mean, I'd say we are succeeding, but succeed with more retail. So,
Yeah.
firstly, let's see what it feels like to properly expand at pace in a new market, because Australia is not our home market. Even though people think New Zealand, Australia is the same thing, it absolutely isn't. And then if we can do that, we'll get a lot of learnings before we can replicate it into America. But I don't see why not. I think America loves our clothing. I mean, they place huge orders. We've got this retailer called Newly, and they do rental.
Oh yeah, Newly, I know. It's Nuuly, right? Newly.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're amazing.
For hundreds of one star, Yeah, so
Yeah.
there's
But this is another market, right? The rental market. Like, again, thinking about, other revenue streams for brands that are opening up opportunities. That's an amazing one. And of course, for, an ethical brand, sustainable brand such as yourself, it's definitely another pillar that makes complete sense in your ecosystem as well.
I mean, at the moment, what we do is we offer repair. Then after repair, we offer resale. People can come and resell their garment. We take it straight away and we offer the points straight away to the customer, which is quite different. You don't have to wait for it to sell. We own it. Yeah, and then resell it through our stores or through online. And then if the garment is beyond resale, is where we go into regenerate, and this is where we've created the process of biochar. But we will have other regenerate programs. We will have possibly recutting the fabrics and reimagining them different ways. So we have a lot of programs to make sure that it doesn't end up in landfill. Yeah.
It's amazing. Do you use a particular platform for resale, or is it all managed in-house at Kowtow?
It's managed in-house. It's really full on. We've actually timed Jo, who's incredible at managing this whole thing. She's been timed to see how long it takes, because of course you have to quantify wages to the profitability of this program. So so it's doing really, really well. I mean, I'm not surprised because the Kowtow garments are so robust. I mean, you can garden in them, go trekking in them, wear them to work, go on the weekend, go to the farmer's market, and 6 years on, it still looks good. So I'm not surprised.
They stand the test of time.
Yeah, I mean, cotton's just really robust, right? I mean, people were in the army. Yeah. It's a great fibre. Yeah, at the moment, that program will require more automation for sure.
Yeah, I would imagine doing the repair, doing the resale, like it's very labour intensive. I've just realised that we didn't go any deeper into biochar. Do you want to spend a minute or so just sharing with everyone exactly what that process is? As we know, we must be plastic free before you can even go anywhere near embarking on the journey of biochar. But what does that physical process look like?
Yeah, what was great was Tessa really led the charge with Marie, who's one of our head pattern makers. And when Tessa told me about it, turning the clothing into carbon, I just thought, what are you even talking about? Like most people. And I got to go to the farm where it was made, which is great. So this guy Matt. There's actually a blog post with a picture of the two of us online. So if people want to go to our journal section, he's the ultimate recycler. You know, you need these people that are revolutionaries to come up with new experiments. And obviously, he's made biochar. It's a very common process, and it's been around for centuries. Where normally it's done with wood slash. So you put wood in a kiln. It's a double kiln where you have the fire on one side and the product that you want to turn into biochar on the other side. And the fire basically carbonizes that product, because if you put the fire onto the wood or the cotton, you'd end up with ash. Really what you want to end up with is a black carbon type substance. It heats up to a very high temperature, 600 degrees, and then you let the kiln cool, open it up, and you end up with this biochar. So Tessa met someone at a wedding, and they were making biochar, and she said, could we do it with clothes? And they were like, well, why don't we experiment? And she got in touch with the biochar network in New Zealand, and they were really excited about this potential because we're plastic free. And so Matt put it in his kiln. We weren't sure what was going to happen, whether it was even going to work. And then we got it tested in a lab. And we did 2 trials. One was when we still had plastic components just in the stitching, so legally 100% cotton, but not. And one where we've gone fully plastic free. And the one that still had plastic components showed it's not food grade safe. Whereas the one that was 100% cotton, where all the trims have been replaced to natural, is now food grade safe. So you end up with this carbon type substance. You have to supercharge it with something, because it's like carbon that you would eat if you have a bad tummy. That you would draw with.
Like charcoal.
Like charcoal, exactly. But if you go on our website, we've got it all beautifully explained. We've supercharged it with seaweed water because it's very porous. It just soaks up everything. And once you've supercharged it, you can then mix 10% of it. I think it's 10%. It's all there. It's all written in our blog. You mix it with compost, it's a soil. And what it does, it puts an element of porous stuff into the soil. So it means that the way that Tessa and Matt described it is that it's like a skyscraper for insects and microbes to be able to go in and really do their thing. It's like a fluffy layer into the soil. Wow. It means that there's a place for them to live, which is so beneficial for soil health. So this is something that's been around for centuries. This is something that growers and gardeners have been using for centuries. And now they can use our clothing as biochar into the earth. But of course that makes so much sense, right? Because if it's been grown naturally and spun and woven and then created without any harmful substances, of course it can go back to the earth. The biggest difference, because we've always thought we make greige, a lot of greige clothing, so natural undyed clothing. I always thought, well, why can't we just put our jeans into the earth as like a weed mat? But actually you can. Of course, that's a great thing to do too, but it actually emits carbon dioxide, whereas biochar locks in the carbon for life. It's a very different process. So rather than emitting carbon dioxide, you're locking in carbon.
It's so interesting because, as you said, from the earth back to the earth, where is your biochar ending up? Who's using this beautiful biochar?
So we've given it, so we've just done a small trial of 200. We've done around 100, 200 kilograms of our Regenerate program, the Take Back program. And we have now working with people. So we have Huhana Smith, who's a senior lecturer at university, and she's regenerating some land north of Wellington and putting in olive grove. So she's going to be using it in her garden. Matt will be using it in his land. He's regenerating ex-forestry land, and he's noticed putting down biochar, supercharged with seaweed, mixed in with compost. He's getting land coming back from absolute abuse from forestry. I mean, there's probably nothing, forestry just sucks out all the nutrients out of the soil. So he's just seeing green come back. And then we want to start experimenting it in an artistic way too. So whether drawing with it we've sent 200 bags of it, calling it Kowtow landfill as a tongue-in-cheek. And we've sent it to media so that they can plant their basil plant on their kitchen counter and just really, I think at the moment it's introducing people to this concept because it's very new.
Yeah.
And seeing
Yeah.
what the uptake's like. I mean, when I announced it, I did not expect the level of excitement from customers. They really understood it, and from our community.
I love it. And I think your mind just gets blown with the potential of where this could go.
Totally.
So, if this can be done en masse in the future, and there's so many uses, so many end users, as you said, getting creative with the biochar. But congratulations to you and your team for getting it to this stage. And as you said, it wouldn't have been possible if you didn't go plastic free.
Absolutely.
In first place. Now, Gosia, we're coming to the pointy end now. I just want to shine the light on you a little bit. We want to talk about mindset, just the mindset component of the podcast. We know that running a fashion business requires a high level of commitment and energy over a long period of time. What mindset has helped you to navigate all of the challenges that you faced along the way and to lead Kowtow with such purpose and passion over the years?
I mean, I think I touched upon it earlier, and there's nothing more than I like than a crisis. You've got to enjoy walking in every day and have a sense of disruption. But that disruption has to be, of course, not all the time and not at 100% because it could blow the team up. But the idea also, the teaching the team that sense of momentum and disruption is a must in the business for it to thrive. It's not a given that we just do things the way we've always done them. It's the opposite, creating change with speed, which gets harder and harder after 20 years, to be honest. But sometimes you get these really magic moments, which we're going through at the moment. It just feels like everyone's in unison. It's fantastic. Yeah, and sometimes you get a whole year where you don't feel like that. I think thriving of challenge is a massive one for me. It really is. Yeah.
I love that. And are there any habits or routines or non-negotiables that help you to keep going with the tenacity that you have, that keep you energized and grounded as you work through all of these, challenges and opportunities, those highs and those lows?
A habit for me is that you walk into work and you present yourself, you have I say hello to everyone, well, I try to. I try and be approachable, extremely approachable. I don't want the hierarchy. I don't like it. I'm a democratic person. Yeah. And I mean, one thing that I do selflessly for myself is that I have a bath every single night. I love going to bed early and I like waking up early. I like reading The Guardian, even though it's absolute make-believe at the moment. And I like being informed, and I like surrounding myself with people that are really, really informed. I am so blessed to have the most insane network of girlfriends in Wellington, and we go hiking together and we do everything together in our chat group on WhatsApp. It goes from complaining about the government to public speaking to silly Instagram reels to, really like celebrating each other. When someone does something that's powerful, we all just get behind each other and celebrate each other. And I don't get tired of it, even though it's daily, because there's a few girls in this group, and we're all just like building each other up. The power of girlfriends is just, I'm just so lucky to have that, especially in Wellington. I do have incredible people around me in London, but Wellington is really where my heart still is. Yeah.
I love that. Our support system is absolutely everything, isn't it? I'm in a few of those group chats myself, and they keep you going on the days where you think, oh, gosh, can I really bat up for this next thing? And then you might get a ding and it's like, all right, I've got this.
Especially the humour,
Yeah.
And they'll share something so ridiculous that you think, oh, okay, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Now, Gosia, finally, when you look ahead, what excites you most about the future of fashion, and where do you believe the greatest opportunity lies for brands willing to lead change?
Well, I'm biased, but obviously sustainability. We have everything we need. We have so much resource here. We call it waste at the moment, but it's not waste, it's a resource. Imagine if we gave ourselves a challenge into the future where we didn't create anything new and we only reused what we had on this planet. We could come up with some pretty amazing designs. We have incredible industrial designers, and I know they're graduating from universities now with this mindset. So I just can't wait for these students to get into the workforce and get the dinosaurs out, because this is this is the only way for the planet to be able to even just get through where the scientists are telling us, which is, a global climate disaster. I feel like I'm in an episode of Don't Look Up. So I think we've got all the answers here. We've got all the resource, all of it. We don't need any more. I just don't know, because every time I think we're making headway, another war starts. So it distracts things. It distracts progress.
Certainly does.
It makes us feel like we're going back in time.
Gosia, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. Congratulations to you and your team for everything you've achieved over the journey. It is nothing short of an inspiration. Everything you do is next level. We absolutely love you here in Australia and couldn't be happier to hear that you're going to be opening up more stores. So can't wait to be able to share that with our audience. Everything you've mentioned during the pod today, I'll link in the show notes, the link for the biochar, the downloadable around plastic free, all of those educational things that can help everyone just to understand the depth that you and your team go to. Thank you for joining me from London. We made it happen and loved every minute of our time together.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I really appreciate the in-depth research that you've done. It's fantastic. I'm actually blown away. I don't think many people go into this level of research like you have. I was so blown away with your level of prep and research. I couldn't wait to wake up this morning and do this. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. It was so inspiring because everything I read, it just took me to the next. I actually thought I knew a lot about your brand before I even started going a little bit deeper. But there was so much more to explore. So I invite everyone, if you haven't explored Kowtow, get on the website, get on the socials, start downloading. And your socials are so entertaining too. I love that your team's involved and that they show up and that you show up. It really is that human element of the brand. But thank you so much for sharing that. I appreciate it. And thanks again for joining me, and enjoy your day in London.
No, thank you.
Thank you for listening to Fashion Business Mindset. If this conversation resonated, I'd love to stay connected. At Fashion Equipped, I work as a strategic growth partner to fashion founders and leadership teams, helping them bring clarity to complex decisions, to strengthen structure, and build more profitable, resilient businesses. You can head to fashionequipped.com.au to explore our advisory services and to join the Monthly Edit, a curated monthly briefing sharing industry shifts, strategic thinking, and practical ideas to help you continue to move your business forward. If social is more your space, you'll find us at Instagram at Fashion Equipped and at Fashion Business Mindset. Wherever you are on your journey, my intention is simple: to help you work more strategically, lead more confidently, and build a successful fashion business. If you're enjoying the conversations this season, I invite you to leave a review. This really does help the podcast to reach those that can benefit from it. I'll see you in the next episode.
This is a Guide Your Light network production, creating podcasts with purpose.